morning, everybody. Danny and Wanda back from Pecan Grove. Getting into the 40s now in the mornings, warming up a little bit. We're kind of enjoying that. Allows us to get out really early before daylight and get a good start and not have to worry about burning up. Very low humidity. We're loving that. I've been working on the evaporator furnace here. We got our pipe set in here for our stack. And I have been waiting for 2 weeks to get the blocks to finish up this hole I had left in it here. So we got that. I had laid the brick up to a certain point because I had to wait on the blocks to finish getting the brick on up. And we have began to fill in this end right here, which is what we call the smoke shelf in this thing. And I have marked on the pipe here with a marker where we're going to be cutting this out with a grinding wheel if I ever get to that point. This will, this is the smoke shelf that's going to be under the evaporator pan. This is the firebox. We'll be laying fire brick inside this, and then we're going to come up here and we're going to lay a smoke shelf, well, a shelf. I call it a shelf. It's just not a smoke shelf. It's where the heat runs up the evaporator pan, and it will exit right up here. Now, I know you probably, let me get something to show you where you can kind of get a little bit better idea. This is where the pan will be sitting at right here. So as the fire comes under the pan right here, the further up the pan it comes, the closer the flame gets to the bottom of the evaporator pan, and the pan will end right here. When you get right here, you want to put a smoke shelf here. This will tilt down right here, and the smoke will actually, and the fire will come and run over this, and it will create a draft going up this pipe here. Now we will lay this, you know, this will be a chimney laid on up to a certain point up here. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to fill this with concrete right here. This has been filled with what we call clay gravel here in the Deep South. We're going to fill this up now with concrete so that I have a shelf to lay my fire brick on in here if I decide to go that route. I don't know if I'll go that route yet or not. Now, back when I was a kid, I say a kid, my 20s. To me, that's a kid. The old evaporators that I was around when I was a young man, this was all brick. They didn't really have block work back then to use like they do now. Most of the old people just used brick. And the inside of this firebox, all this shelf, all this stuff in here was all made out of clay. They would take and form and fabricate that thing with old clay. They'd wet it, and they'd form it out of clay. As a matter of fact, I have built evaporators that way. And believe it or not, they work just fine. I had one that was 14 feet long that I built for my own self over in one of my houses that I used to live in. And it worked perfectly fine. As a matter of fact, at the end of the season, when I would take the pan up and hang it up, the clay that we put underneath there, because we were running such an intense fire on that 14-foot pan, that the clay actually become like concrete. You could hit it with a hammer and it was like concrete. So it does work. You don't have to have all the modern materials like we have today if you if you don't want to. My hopes and plans on this particular furnace right here is that because it's going to be such a massive amount of concrete blocks and bricks and all that kind of stuff, that once I get it heated up and get it going, the heat from all of this in here will keep the pan nice and hot, and I won't have to burn as much wood, I'm hoping. Because using this system that I had right here over at Deepsouth Homestead, guys, I burnt wheelbarrow on top of wheelbarrow on top of wheelbarrow loads of wood in this thing just to keep, and I mean, it was a struggle to keep these two pans boiling in that thing. It took all day long to boil out these two pans twice in here to make our syrup with. So hopefully by building this evaporator system, it will not take quite that long. Now, I'm fixing to be pouring some concrete, but I want to show you the door that Mr. Tim made. I really like it. Now it looks a little dirty right now because I got concrete all over it. I had painted it and then I got concrete on it, but he's got a damper system here. You can turn to close the air off or open it up. Or it's got a little handle here. We can open this door up to feed it with wood here. I mean, Mr. Tim did a fantastic job on designing that for me, and I really appreciate that. Right now, he's building a angle iron system that goes inside of this right here that will fit in here for the evaporator pan to actually set on, so that it's not sitting on the blocks right here. It'll be sitting on a steel surface in here, and I have actually ordered a gasket set to put around this to keep as much of the smoke and heat and all in as possible. So, and this pipe, Mr. Tim was able to help me get this stainless steel pipe here for the stack. I really appreciate that from him. And now he's actually working on the gear system that goes on top of the cane mill here. We have a big giant gear, and we're going to have another smaller gear right here with an idler arm on it, and a big number 80 chain running around all this that my post hole auger gearbox actually sets into the top of with the clutch pack system we have. Guys, it's so close to coming together that it's all on me now. Because
and we gotta wait and pray we don't get a frost before we get all this done, or a freeze.
A freeze before we get all this done, because we're under a burn ban right now. We have had no rain to amount to anything. Let's say that in several months, you know, here. And with this low humidity and all the woods that we own around here, everything is just bone dry. The leaves are falling, pine straws falling everywhere. Mr. Tim's supposed to be helping me with a spark arrestor to go on top of the smokestack up here to maybe keep some of the sparks from this, because once you get that old big fire going in here, guys, there's a lot of sparks that goes out the end of this pipe up here, because this thing is Cadillacing once it's going. So hopefully if Mr. Tim can help me with that spark arrestor, get that up there, and we can maybe don't get a freeze before we get a rain. It's one of them wait and see games, you know, because we get a freeze, we're going to have to do something. The cane, we'll lose the cane, and it'll sour on us if we get a freeze on it. So that's why I'm in such a mad rush to get this done. I was hoping to get it done this summer, but guys, when it's 100-something degrees outside every day, on top of day, on top of day, on top of day, and had no building here to get underneath, it just wasn't possible for me at my age, you know. But now that we get up and it's in the 40s this morning outside, I'm loving it, you know. I'm able to get out and work, and I can work all day. I'm under a roof here. When the sun gets too hot, it's in the shade, because it still gets up in the 80s, right at 80 during the day. And you know, that'll wear on you if you're right here with the sun beating down on you, but I got a shade to get under when it gets to a certain point, and I can keep working. So now you know, everybody say, man, this is an expensive system. Well, really, to be honest with you, the only thing I've really had to buy on this whole thing was the blocks, the cement, and the mortar. Mr. Tim's been gracious enough to help me with the other stuff. The bricks, guys, I have so many bricks on this property, thousands upon thousands of them, of any size and shape you can imagine. And I'm trying to utilize these, and I told Wanda, I said I almost messed my own self up. I picked the hardest brick to lay, but I was after a particular look, and I liked the look of these brick right here because it was an old look. But I finally realized that these brick are way thicker this way than a normal brick is. They're like a ½ an inch thicker than a regular brick. But they're way narrower this way, which makes them a whole lot harder to lay because they want to tilt over this way. And when I got up to the top up here, I was thinking, now what am I going to do to close this off across here, because the mill's going to sit, the pan's going to sit right here. We have a bunch of these old solid bricks like this right here that's wider. You see the difference in the width of the bricks right here? Look how much difference there are in the width of those bricks. This brick was the same thickness as this brick, but yet it was wider. And it'll cover up some of this gap down through here that I'm needing to be covered up. So we're going to be capping it off with these type bricks right here. I'm having to go up through the brick pile and dig all them out, and trying to utilize everything that we have here on the homestead. You know, I'm trying not to spend any more money than I absolutely have to. So thank you, Mr. Tim, for helping me out with that stuff. And thank you, Mr. Chris, for helping me when we mix the cement, all the rest of it. I've been out here by myself and working just a little bit at a time, doing what I can do. And hopefully, if you guys will follow me along, I'll show you some of the next phases where we, after I have this poured with cement, and then we lay the fire brick all in here, and when I get the smoke shelf, we're going to show all that before we actually cover this thing completely up. Now, I will tell you this, Mr. Tim has another idea, and I love Mr. Tim's ideas because Mr. Tim comes up with some really good ideas, was that we build a stainless steel system to put on top of this, because it's going to end right here. Right here will be brick from here back, because it'll be the chimney stack, but from here to here will be an open pit right here. Mr. Tim come up with this ingenious thing of us getting some stainless steel and putting a flat iron, like solid iron piece over this right here, and then a grating system over this right here, like expanded metal out of stainless. And when we're not using it for cooking syrup, we'll take the syrup pan off, we'll put that system on top of here, we'll build a fire in this thing, and we can actually cook on top of the stainless, or we can let the heat run on up under here. We can cook on top of the expanded metal. Now I know the smoke probably won't go on up under there, but that's okay. And then on top of that, we may just build a stainless top to go over the whole thing so that we can cook on top of the whole stainless. Then the smoke will go up the stack. We got a lot of different options here, you know. So we want to try to utilize this and make it not only for cooking syrup, but for just fellowshipping and enjoying life. Thank you, guys.